So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Elliott Benson, who's the owner at Sett Mortgages. So, firstly, Elliott, thank you so much for spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, Sett Mortgages, what you do, how you help people, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, no, so I'm Elliott Benson. I own Sett Mortgages. We're based in Leeds, but we do cover national. So we've got clients all over the UK at the moment. But we're a free whole of market mortgage broker, so we don't charge any fees, and we specialize in helping people with the entire buying process. So a lot of the time, when you go direct to a bank, for example, or if you go to some brokers, it's very much just like a big call center where all they're doing
Yep,
really is putting the application in for you.
yep.
Where they're, through the entire process, helping, negotiate on the house someone wants to buy, helping, dealing with any queries they've got about solicitors, surveyors, all that kind of stuff. So basically holding people's hand through the whole process, essentially. And we don't charge anything. So yeah, that's us, essentially.
Brilliant, and I mean, sounds great because it's so important, isn't it? It's probably the biggest, but biggest purchase most of
Yeah.
us make in our lives, and
Yeah.
having someone like you that can help, is so important because I think yeah, it's a bit of a minefield out there, isn't it, in terms of finding the right
Yeah.
one for each individual.
I think there's a lot of, especially with first-time buyers, I think there's a lot of assumed knowledge that people,
Yeah.
within the process think that the buyer will have. For
Yes.
example, what kind of survey they want, what kind of fixed deal they want, that kind of how mortgages work. Especially, I think if you go into it, I think without a broker or without guidance, it's very much just like if you're going on like I don't know Money Supermarket or whatever, and you just ticking boxes and choosing without actual
Yeah.
advice, you don't really know what it is you're getting.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of places just assume that everyone knows what a
Yes.
mortgage is and how it works, and the ins and outs, the intricacies of it, and it's just not the case. No one really gets throughout like school, high school, uni. You don't really get financial
No.
education, and then you're sort of thrown into it, and it's like I think it's assumed that people know, but they don't.
Yeah.
So it is always useful to have someone to help you with that. I think with the buying process, if you're buying a house for the first time as well, estate agents, solicitors, surveyors, and stuff, we do this every single day. Whereas someone's only going to buy a house every few years, or they
Yeah.
might only move a couple of times. And it can be really tricky and stressful because you just don't know what the process is unless you've done it before you've dealt with it.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, no, it's really great to know. And I mean, I find it so many different industries that jargon is taught and assumed that
Yeah,
people understand. And
yeah,
it's like the more we can simplify things and just so people get
yeah.
all the knowledge and can make those informed decisions. And
Mhm.
now you mentioned your whole market, which is great. So you're looking across the market.
Yeah.
If you look at your client base, I'm sure you can help anybody. But are there any particular types of client that you serve best?
Yeah, so we specialize in first-time buyers, really. People buying the first home
Yep.
because I mean, my background was estate agency, so I was selling houses before I started doing mortgages.
Yep.
So it gives a real sort of there's a lot I can add to the process, a lot of value I can add to the process for someone buying for the first time who hasn't done it before,
Yes.
because any questions that they've got about the process, I can answer, even if it's not to do with the probably 90% of the queries I deal with on a daily basis from my clients are nothing to do with mortgage at all. It's to do with what does this mean in the process?
Wow.
Can you have a look at this survey for me? Is this an issue? What is the solicitor saying? Can you
Wow.
translate this from legal speak into something I can understand? It's very very rare that the mortgage is something that it's like a day-to-day issue that I deal with. It's mainly the process.
Brilliant. Again, it's so valuable to know that you provide that service because it's it is quite a difficult thing to understand and work through.
Mm,
So absolutely
yeah.
wonderful. So maybe if Elliot, we could start by looking back a little bit, and you can tell us.
Hmm.
You obviously mentioned your career as an estate agent, but tell us how you
Yeah.
got into business and why this particular one for you.
So, like I said, I was an estate agent for a long time. So I was at a large estate agency for 4 years as a estate agent.
Yep.
And then the career path really in estate agency is you can go into valuing houses where you would go to see the clients face to face and try and get the house on the market, basically. Or you can go into mortgage services.
Right.
And the way it worked in a branch is you've got your sales negotiators, which is what I was doing, which is, selling the houses. You've got the mortgage advisor, who will try and do mortgages for clients that are buying through them, for
Yep.
example. And you've got the valuers who go and try and bring properties on the market.
Yes.
And I always wanted to, I really enjoyed business at high school, business studies, that kind of thing. I always wanted to have my own business. And when I was in the estate agency environment, I saw how the mortgage advisors worked within the branch. Like they had their own diary, they managed their own client bank, and they were sort of separate from the general sort
Yes.
of office. And
Yep.
it felt a lot more independent. Like
Yep.
when I moved into that role, so the agency that I was at, they put me through the exams to do advice. And then you sort of separate from the day-to-day workings of the office. You have your own diary. You decide when you want to do meetings, and you deal with clients the way you want to. There's
Correct.
no direct sort of direct management for you within the office. You're
Yep.
sort of on your own, and it felt like having a sort of business within a business,
Yeah.
which I enjoyed. And I spent 4 years doing that at the estate agency, and then there's only so far you can go really with them within that because you're limited to, I worked out of a branch in Crossgates, so you're sort of limited to any clients within that area really that are coming to you. And with the sort of competition that was in the area, when I worked within the estate agency as a broker, we had to charge a broker fee, which I felt like long term, when you look at competition, like you've got massive mortgage brokers like London and Country, which are on Rightmove. They're really strong on digital marketing. One of the biggest brokers in the UK, their whole of market, and they don't charge a fee.
Right.
Um, there was maybe three other estate agents on the street that I worked on, and all of them were cheaper fee wise.
Right.
So with the advent of especially now with people can go on Chat GPT and it'll recommend, it can't advise, but it'll tell them, what Money Supermarket does basically. It'll recommend mortgage brokers and stuff like that. And it's so easy now for people to find a mortgage advisor that I just thought charging a fee was just it's going to die out at some point because people just aren't going to. If you go to 10 different mortgage advisors and they're all whole of market, we're all going to get you the same deal. So
Yeah.
why would you pay someone to do it?
Yes.
So as but the thing is, when you're at a large company like that, it's never going to change. Like
No.
you're never going to make any kind of changes there. So I sort of decided to set up on my own. Um, but what I'd sort of noticed is a lot of mortgage advisors from that company had gone self-employed and come back. So I was trying to think, what is it that they're doing that's causing them
Okay.
to have to come back? Like what is it that and the common theme really was I think they all relied too strongly on, first of all, estate agents. Um, Typically, if you're a self-employed mortgage advisor, you will want to work with an estate agent because people
Yeah.
will go buy a house and they'll come to speak to you. Um, the problem is, every mortgage broker wants to work with an estate agent,
Yeah.
and all of them will have, people they know, friends and stuff like that. So you can spend all your time chasing an estate agent and not really doing any business, to be honest. So that was the first thing. The second thing was I think people relied too strongly as well on their own clients coming back. So,
Yeah.
firstly, obviously with non-competes and stuff like that, if you're relying on clients coming back, you're at a massive risk anyway of being taken to court. But also, not everyone will come back to you.
Yeah.
You even now probably probably 9 out of 10 of my clients will come back
Yeah.
for a remortgage, because they know you, they've worked with me before and stuff like that. But you will still get people who will go direct to the bank because it's easy, or they'll forget, or stuff will happen. They might move house and buy a new build or something, and just decide to go in house for easy, that kind of thing. So,
Yes.
and I think if you're relying on those two things, I think that was the thing, that was where it sort of falls down. So I thought, well, I need to I need to focus on, if it's going to work, I have to make it work from new business. I have to be able to generate my own business without relying
Brilliant.
on other
Brilliant.
people to provide it or people coming back. So the focus for me really when I set up was always trying to find new business constantly, as opposed to relying on,
Brilliant.
potentially people coming back, or relying on finding an estate agent, because that could have taken ages.
Yes.
So everything that I did when I set up was to, first of all, eliminate any objections to using myself as an advisor. So whole of market, don't charge a fee, and helping with the actual buying process. So it's sort of like that. There's no reason why a client, if they're sat in front of me, there's no reason why they would not want to proceed, because
Yeah.
they're getting a service and not having to pay for it. So that was the first thing. The second thing was making it work for yourself, Jens, and that was all to do with like finding ways to reach my clients without having to go through an estate agent and stuff
Yep.
like that. So it was
Brilliant.
really, um, as with any business, I think people forget sometimes when in financial advice, especially, I think people forget that, yes, you are a mortgage advisor or you are a financial advisor or whatever, but you are still a business, and therefore you have to have marketing. You can't
Absolutely.
just you can't just expect people to come to. I think people forget the business part of it.
Absolutely.
You have to market your business. So
Yep.
marketing was something that I really focused on.
Brilliant.
And I think that's forgotten a lot of the time. I think people just set up and they expect,
Yeah.
clients to come to them, but I think you have to treat it as a business, and you need that. So that was the other focus, really.
Yeah, 100% agree with that, and I've seen that in a number of different industries where people are so passionate about what they do, they just assume the clients will turn up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And it's a nice idea, and I'm sure
yeah,
when they do turn up, we service them really well. But
yeah,
without telling people that we're here, what we do, how we
exactly.
do
Yeah,
it,
no one knows. Yeah,
it's not. And as you say, relying on any individual marketing
yeah,
channel like an individual estate agent or whatever it would be is inherently risky anyway. So being able to
yeah,
go out and have your own direct to market opportunity. I guess an obvious question, which I would imagine you get asked by prospective clients, is so if you're not charging a fee, how do you generate your revenue?
yeah. So yeah, because people do tend to get, some people get really um suspicious when you say you're not charging a broker fee, because they're
Yep,
used to, everyone thinks, oh, broker fee, broker,
yep,
the fact is, like, every mortgage broker, regardless of whether they're charging a fee or not, we all get paid by the bank when the client moves in.
right,
So if
yep,
you were sat in front of myself and another broker, and we're both whole of market, we would both get you the same deal, and we would both get paid the same by that bank for doing it.
right,
The only difference is the other advisor gets paid twice. The reason they're charging a fee up front is because if so I think
I would imagine there's a couple of things here, and I've done the work with quite a few recruitment companies, and one thing that I came to realize was if a rec is, and I don't know if this is similar or not, but if a recruitment company only gets paid when the person is placed, there's
yeah,
plenty of times they do the work and they don't get paid, and that's why the
that's it.
fee
Yeah, that's the other thing.
is
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is a certain amount. Now you're what feels like, so that justifies potentially charging a
Yeah,
fee
that's
because then
right.
you're getting paid to the work. But what it feels like you're doing, and I've seen very successful. I mean that's the model for recruitment is you model in the fact that because you're good at what you do, you can accept a few don't go through. And
Yeah, that's it.
yeah,
So it's
brilliant.
for me, it was just yeah. So that's really the reason that they'll say, if I do this work, don't go for it, I don't get paid.
Yeah,
But I think
yeah.
that's just I think it's just a risk you have to take, really, because
Oh, it's brilliant.
if you the thing is, I was always sort of when I worked at the corporate and now I was a very high volume advisor. I dealt with a lot of applications, um, and I think because of that, it sort of was like, okay, I know that I personally want to reach as many of my clients, potential clients as I possibly can. I don't want anything to put them off. And I think if paying a fee does put some people off, and I'm prepared to waive that. I'm prepared to take the risk of it not going through me doing the work, um, because I don't want to alienate potential customers. I'd
No,
rather have the opportunity to deal with them,
in,
basically.
interestingly enough, I mean, it occurs to me that it's actually there's something else as well. It demonstrates a level of confidence in yourself to find the solution because you're only going to get paid if you
Yeah,
find a solution, which should give your clients a lot of confidence in you
yeah.
doing a great job right up front.
Yeah, the thing is, like, if I've got a case, like even a complicated case, like I want to make the incentive is there to make it work,
Yeah,
and get that through to completion.
love it.
And it sort of eliminates any there's no sort of thought in the client's mind that oh, I've paid him a fee now, he don't care, he's been
Yeah,
paid, doesn't matter. Because I'm actively trying to get through to completion. There's no reason why I wouldn't put every effort in to get a
yeah,
case over the line. So it sort of eliminates any
yeah.
fears of that on the client's behalf, really.
Completely agree. Makes a lot of sense. So, looking back over since founding and growing it to where you are now, what looking back, what are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome so far in it?
I'd say probably um, like I mentioned earlier about the marketing thing. I think the shift from just doing the job
Yeah.
to doing everything basically, because when you first set up, it's
Yes.
doing your own marketing, what works, what doesn't work, doing it to a certain extent, doing your own accounting as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff that comes with it, because things like you're not really yes, I am a mortgage broker, but when as soon as you set up on your own, you're not just that. You pretty much everything. And then with the advent of taking on staff, dealing with like HR stuff, contracts, all that kind of stuff, it gets really, really, it gets a lot more complicated.
Yes.
So it's not you're not just doing your job anymore. You're doing a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of the biggest challenges because I remember like after the first sort of 6 months, sort of thinking oh my God, this is a lot more complicated than
Yes.
and then again it happened so I started as a sole trader and then went limited
Yeah.
after the first year I think it was and again just all the paperwork and stuff that comes with that I was just sort of like oh my God it was way easier being just pay as you earn
Yep.
but obviously there are a lot of benefits to being
Yeah.
self-employed but then yeah so that was probably that and just I'd say the losing the sort of safety net of going from having a
Yes.
guaranteed monthly
100%.
income to suddenly you've got nothing and I remember sort of thinking like because I it was sort of like a very spur of the moment decision when I decided to set up like I knew I wanted to do it and I
Yep.
kept thinking like I keep thinking I want to do it but and I was like I feel like I'm never actually going to do it so one morning I just got to the office and I just quit on the spot and then I thought now I have to make it work. Like it has to work now.
Yes.
Um,
Burn the bridge.
but yeah, but then it's sort of like you have to. There's so many times when I thought like this is really difficult, and should I just go back? And I think one of the toughest things was getting through the first year when probably 60% of me was like, shall I just go back? Like, shall I just go
Yeah. Yeah.
and give up and go back? But I think after the first year, it gets a lot better. But I think that's something where um, I think that's another thing where a lot of people, when they came back, struggled with. It's that first year where there's a lot of uncertainty, and it's like, oh my God, what have I done? Um, I was sort of safe there, and now it's
Yep.
totally new.
It is why only 4% of the population own businesses.
Right.
It's you are a different breed to many other people. Have you read the book? I'm interested if you read the book The E-Myth.
No,
But
no.
so there's a couple of bits in there that might but it might be worth covering it. And he took the myth stands for the entrepreneurial myth, and
Yeah,
it just basically that that and it's a bit of a how to manual for
yeah,
founding a business. But he talks about the and he talks about the entrepreneurial seizure
yeah,
of the guy that says almost exactly as you said, he's just woke up one morning. I think he
yeah,
describes the idea of the plumber getting called out 2 in the morning to
yeah,
fix a boiler or whatever, and says, why am I doing this when the boss is at home, sleeping,
yeah.
and then he quits his job, and he says quits his job there and then, and Gerber describes it as he stops working for an idiot and starts working for the lunatic, i.e. himself.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but
yeah,
the other thing he describes, which you describe really well, was this idea of at early days of a business, it's typically
yeah,
get a customer,
yeah,
service the customer. So
yeah,
it's like a seesaw. So and then by the time we service the customer, oh heck, we haven't got any money, so we better go and get another. And it's a
yeah,
bit of
yeah,
a
yeah,
seesaw, and describes that where we need to ultimately get to, which it feels like you've developed into, is it's almost two wheels working together. So we're getting
yeah.
new customers and we're dealing with them, and
That's
then
it.
everything works so that you've got the
Yeah,
ability to scale. It's not just about us, and we've got the
yeah, yeah.
ability to grow. So yeah, might be it is a good book. I love that there's a bit in it that I love, and it says when you first draw the organizational chart, it's one box saying me,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
and
yeah,
if you're
yeah,
lucky, there's two of us, and it says me and you.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but obviously, so it's an interesting book. And speaking of sort of learning, what alongside obviously the challenges, whether it's some challenges or successes, what would you say
Mm.
are the biggest things you've learned about founding and growing a business so far?
I think um I actually think that you get um a lot more. I've definitely learned that you get a lot more support than you probably think that you would
Great,
when you set up. I think
great,
people like I think people like an underdog. I think,
yes,
and like when I first set up and you feel quite isolated and it's difficult because it's just you. I
yep,
went to loads of different events and stuff like that, and I found so many people were happy to give advice and to help, and like even like little things like stuff to do with like I don't know, like brand design or like little
yeah,
stuff like that I wanted to do. Like people were just happy to just help with it.
brilliant,
Because I think people like seeing, something sort of grow. And
yes,
that was quite good. So one of the things I would say I've learned is like don't be afraid to ask for help
brilliant,
because people will actually help you. I thought that like it would be, I thought it'd be totally isolating and alone, but people will actually help, which is good. Um, I think in terms of like the day-to-day running of the business, I think I learned quite quickly that you can't think of it as like I think there were two separate sort of so my friend described this really well actually. When I was starting to sort of think of growing the business, he said to me, "You're still thinking about it as like a bedroom, but like just you sat in your
yep,
bedroom doing mortgages. Like when you started, he was like, you need to think of it as like an actual business now." And that was a total like that sort of hit home about like the shift. You
yes,
have to learn to treat it as a business, as opposed to in some ways I was still in that mindset of I'm sat in an office, doing the job.
yep,
Actually, I'm running a business now, and there's things that come with that, like trying to grow, trying to scale, and getting systems in place and stuff like that. And I think
yeah.
like I definitely learning to treat it as a business and not just you does help a lot. Like changing your mindset on that, I think.
100%. It's a mindset shift. I work with lots of people taking them through that process because it
Mm,
really is an identity shift.
yeah,
Um, the way I sort of describe it is, our identity when we found a business in those early days of establishment survival is every we've got to watch every penny
Yeah,
counts. Every decision could be the last. There's a lot of
yeah, yeah,
fear,
yeah.
you
That's
might
it.
get it wrong. And there's an element of, if I can do it, I'm going to save money for the business, so I should do it.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of
that's it.
common
Yeah,
sense in that. The challenge is, and that's the right way to think. I'm totally cool with that. The challenge is, as we get to the point of potential growth of scalability,
yeah,
if we still think like that, we become the barrier to growth,
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah. That's it.
we,
Exactly. Yeah,
we've got to turn our mindset from one of cost to investment, because an
yeah,
investment gives us a return. And we've got to one from what do I do to how do I get that done without doing it.
yeah.
And it's
That's it.
quite a different. I mean, funny, I was with a client this morning who's got a very successful business, 30, 40 people, and we're just working through that challenge of,
Right.
he's still doing, he's touching every bid,
Yeah,
he's doing a lot of the grunt work that he doesn't need to do,
yeah,
and he's
yeah,
wondering why he's so busy and challenged. And
yeah,
it is a mindset change. It is fascinating. I think we have a definition in Action Coach, actually, of a true business, which is a commercial profitable enterprise that
yeah,
works without its owners.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
and I think it's interesting to consider. I don't know how you think about that as a definition of where you are in it,
yeah,
but it's sort of it's thinking that way at least frees us
yeah.
more and more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I was ideally, I would like to get to the point where I could, if I left for a year, the
Yep,
business would still be here when I got back.
great.
That's what I'm trying to work towards, really.
Brilliant.
And I sort of didn't have that mindset at first. I just came into it thinking I'm just going to do as many mortgages as I can, and I'm
Yeah,
just going to keep doing that. And then it sort of gradually changed, and I thought, well, actually, you know, we we get clients now based on the brand,
yeah,
not
brilliant.
just people
Yeah,
who are like, oh, you did my friend's mortgage, I'm gonna use you. We get, based on other stuff now.
brilliant.
So for me, yeah, it's like I want the business to be able to operate without me being there, because otherwise I'm always going to be an employee of the business. I'm never going to
Yep,
be an actual owner, because that's sort of, in terms of like processing and growth of the business. That's what I'm trying to get to with what I'm putting
brilliant,
in place, and that kind of thing.
brilliant. I mean, the sort of, I think the truth of the matter is, it's okay, is up until that point, we've still got a
Yeah,
job. Now,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
we're still trading for time for money, and that's fine. It's just,
yeah,
if we want a true business, is that ability, as you say, and it's going
yeah,
away for more than I often say. People say, well, I can go away for a week and everything's fine. It's, well, yeah, okay, but try 3 months or a year. That's the true test. It's not whether or not you can have a holiday. It's whether or not you
yeah,
can not be there. So it's a fascinating
yeah.
thing. And Elliot, I think you where we were a coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, or life in general. Who's had the biggest influence on you?
Um, to be honest, I've not worked with a coach before. I the way that I've sort of I like taking little bits of places that I think are successful and trying to work out
Absolutely.
how I could. For example, the way I work with my caseloads on a day-to-day basis, I took that system from Costa Coffee like years ago,
Right.
because it's like essentially a manufacturing
Yeah.
line, order comes in, it's worked, and that
Yep.
kind of thing, and that. So and, various aspects of customer service that I use have taken from like hospitality and things like that, just
Brilliant.
just to make it into. But I think when I've been to different, well, I'll give you an example. So uh, I like to speak to people who have had businesses for a long time. So my friend, one of my best friends from school, his dad has a surveyor's, and I went to their Christmas party, and I was probably really annoying his dad the entire night because I was quizzing him about, like, I was like, so you've had a business for a long time, and
Brilliant.
like, what would you say is the key to like longevity and that kind of thing? And I spoke to another guy who had a marketing company who's had it for years and years and years, worked with really big brands. And I was just, I love to speak to people who have businesses that have been ongoing for ages, and just get, and there seems to be like a common theme with with businesses that have lasted a long time, and it really just the common theme is just the service, like just providing a good service to the client. That's the main theme, and then from that, people, you build your reputation. But yeah, little stuff like that I take from other places, and I like speaking to people who've had business for a while. That sort of helps. So no one individual coach, but just little bits of info that I've picked up,
Yeah.
over the time I've been sort of self-employed.
There's so much knowledge out there, and as you said earlier, people are more than willing to help and
Yeah,
just advise. I mean, it's something we took a decision years ago and just said, look, if people want to help, they get it, whether or not they can
yeah,
afford, whether they can afford it or not, because
yeah,
there are lots of people that don't want to help for whatever reason. That's fine.
yeah,
Um, uh, and so it would be wrong to disadvantage people that need help because we get paid in lots of different
yeah,
ways. It's a bit like I guess it's a bit like with you. We, don't, we you're choosing to do something where you might not get paid, and that's
yeah,
okay because that's part of your success. And
exactly. Yeah,
I think there's so many people out there that are willing and able to help, and it's just asking. So I mean, I think a great learning from what you said is for anyone out there that's sort of in isolation is
yeah,
go and network with, as you've identified, family, could be family, friends, or family of
yeah.
friends. I think in your
That's
case,
it. Yeah.
which is fascinating. And from any of the sources that you've had, and do you have any favourite quotes or sayings about business or successful life in general that you catch yourself using?
Um, I don't know where the quote is from, but the one thing that has sort of stuck that I see someone else post this quite a bit on LinkedIn and stuff is just and this is sort of something that I took when I first set up is that you don't have to do anything particularly different. You just have to do it better. And that's something that I've sort of kept in mind with everything that I've done. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a groundbreaking new business
No,
idea. I'm a mortgage broker, and there's like, there's hundreds of us in Leeds, but I think
yes,
you can do the same thing, but just do it better and be successful. You don't have to do anything
yeah.
particularly, different or outside the box. It's just doing it better.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There is a quote like that from, and it's yeah, I'm trying to think it would be. Yeah, there's a couple of sources, but it's something like you don't have to do extraordinary things, you
Yeah.
just have to do ordinary things extraordinarily
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
successful. And I think it's a really good point. It's just do
Yeah.
better.
Mm,
Just do it better than the next person, and that's
yeah.
part of our points of difference. And obviously, in your model too, with no fee, that's it's
Yeah.
pretty cool. And similarly, any favorite books or podcasts you can recommend?
I've not read in a long time actually. Just because I'm just always doing something.
Yep, it's quite common.
But but no, I wouldn't say so. It's I, I tend to I use LinkedIn a lot. Just in general.
Yep,
But I just tend to. There's no one I particularly sort of follow on there, but I do tend to get stuff come up that I like picking up little gems like that. But I've not read
yeah,
any particular books.
cool.
All I've been recommended loads of stuff over the past few years. But I just never devote time to actually sitting down and doing it. That's the thing.
I think a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't. I think and it's all fine. There are no rights or wrongs in anything. It's obviously it's. I think the key thing, the point about it is gaining knowledge, and you're clearly
Yeah,
doing that in different ways, and that's all. I think it's if we I I remember. It was one of these interviews with the guy that helps investors invest in startup scale ups, etc. And he was
yeah,
just talking about, and he said something I thought was brilliant. And he said, if ever we get an whether it's a founder or a CEO that we've put in place, the day they say they don't need to learn anything else is
yeah,
the day they need to leave.
yeah,
And he was he was really calm about it. He said, as soon as people say, "Look, I know what I'm doing exactly, and I don't need any help," is the
yeah,
point when they become the barrier to the next
Yeah,
stage of
yeah,
growth.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I,
That's
I
it.
think as long as we get, I mean, I think, as I say, it's not how we gain knowledge, but as long as we're gaining knowledge, I think because the world's changing so much so quickly, it's so
Yeah,
important that we do keep ourselves up to date.
that's it.
And on just continuing the education thing, what have you learned about yourself throughout your journey so far?
I think um I think I definitely have a lot more. I think a lot more resilience
Yeah,
than I would have thought before setting up, and also resistance to stress. I think
brilliant.
I learned that I cope with stress a lot better than some people do, because there is high level of stress involved with
Yeah,
this job, and obviously setting up business anyway.
yeah,
Um, it was funny because I actually did a well, it was to do with Leeds Beckett Business School. There
yeah.
was like a thing they were doing there, and had to fill in this like personality questionnaire. And one of the things was it stress tolerance, I think. And my stress tolerance was like the highest it could possibly
Brilliant.
be. And I thought, you know what, that's actually probably accurate because it is really stressful, but it doesn't really affect it. I think luckily I'm able to manage it. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
that was something that I found was quite interesting.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, that's great. It's resilience comes up a lot in these conversations I
Yeah,
have, and I think it is that ability just to see things for what they are,
yeah,
and as you say, and then and even if it is stressful, if you're also able
mm.
to accept and embrace that, that's hell of a thing to have. So brilliant. And and then looking forward then a little bit, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any, Alex?
Um, so I think for for us, it's just continuously building on year on year, just doing more. So I constantly check. The one sort of metric that I'm really keen on is every month I check year on year what we did last year, how many we done this year. And I
Yeah,
always want it to be more, even if it's just one more. I always want constant improvement.
yeah,
Um, if I don't get that, then I worry and I'll go into detail on why that's happened. Have I done something different this month, marketing wise? Where has it
yeah,
gone wrong that I've not done as many as this time last year?
yeah.
Um, so I think moving forward, it's just continuous expansion. Like there's so many things I want to do with the business. I have more time to do it now because I've got more staff and I've got more stuff
Brilliant,
I can delegate.
brilliant.
Um, but there's several things that I want to do because I want to go from I want like it's like think of it like a business. I want it to be I want to take the sort of foundations that we've got in Leeds and the same sort of model and put that somewhere like Manchester next, and then
Great. Well,
Newcastle. I want to do the same thing, sort of city by city,
brilliant.
um, and a lot of that, the way I'm able to look at doing that now is because I am able to leave the business for longer than I ever could before. Not obviously, forever. But there
Brilliant.
are times I can be
Yeah,
away and I can go develop business somewhere else and try and build it again. Um, but it's but also the challenge really with that is it's almost like when I think about taking the business model to another city, it almost feels like starting all over again.
yes.
Because no one knows who I am, the brand,
Yep.
all that kind of stuff. Total new market. And it does almost feel like starting again, but it sort of feels like starting, which makes me feel a little bit demotivated about actually doing it because it's like, oh God,
Okay. Yeah,
all
yeah.
that stuff again. But at the same time, I've got more. Um, I know what works and what doesn't work this
Yep.
time. So there's less
Yes.
trial and error. And I've got more support this time from like staffing and stuff like that. So in some ways, I'm more capable. than I was when I set up
Yes.
the business the first time. But I think it's that sort of mindset of like, oh, I'm starting fresh somewhere else. I've got to do that all over again, basically.
It's really interesting. It's a really good test of a bit of a business model
Mm,
structure and systems
yeah,
when we move it from where we replicate it because
yeah, yeah,
especially into a new marketplace. So it is it's a really good, as I say, good test of does it
yeah,
work, and also it's great to actively, if you're starting another branch, whatever you want to call it, another office, you
yeah.
can't be in two places at the same time. So it's a real good way
That's
of
it.
getting you out of the day to day because
Yeah,
you can't be
exactly.
in two places. Therefore,
Yeah,
and so it's pretty cool. But I totally get that. But going back to your point about marketing, it will really hopefully support the fact that you've got the marketing right, but the fact that you can go
yeah,
into a new town and present yourself with a marketing message that is going to attract people that have
yeah,
no knowledge of your reputation. So that's
yeah,
going to be
yeah.
quite exciting. When
Yeah.
when are you sort of hoping to have that second office in place?
I think probably um further towards the end of the year now.
Brilliant.
Because I think I January is like the busiest time and December is,
So
generally
yeah,
slowest time.
yes,
But I feel like it sounds um not it sounds sort of against the norm, but I think trying to build in the least busy time of year, at least the foundations are there so that when it gets to January, so if I
yeah,
was, starting in Q4, for example, laying the foundations for everything, at least then when it gets really
yes,
busy in January, people know that we're there,
yeah,
basically. So although, it is a slower time of year, I don't think it's necessarily a bad time to start trying to build.
yeah.
Because we're less going on anyway, so I've got more time to
Right.
focus on that. So, but I think yeah, probably Q4 now I would be
Brilliant,
looking at.
brilliant. And if you started the business again, looking back, is there anything significant that you do different? Do you think?
Um, I think I would um not significantly different, but I would streamline stuff a lot more.
Yeah,
I sort of know what works and what doesn't work
yeah,
now, marketing wise, so I could
yeah.
probably save myself a lot of time and a lot of money as well in the
Yes,
in the first year. So it's probably stuff I'd streamline. Definitely stuff to do with the marketing that I think some stuff just didn't work.
yeah,
And finding the right way of contacting people as a mortgage advisor took age. Like it took 6 to 12 months to get the marketing sort of right.
yes,
So there was a lot of stuff that I wouldn't do again now that I know it didn't work. But at the time, it's just all trial and error,
yeah.
costly trial and error.
Well, I guess the good news is that's going to stand you in great stead for the next set of offices, isn't it? Because
Yes, I
as you
know.
said, you've done all that, and you've got that knowledge, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
So final question: what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that?
Probably I would probably have set up sooner than I did. Um, I think when I left, it was, I was ready to go.
Yes.
But I think I probably wish I'd have left 2 years before that.
Yeah.
Because the last 2 years, I was just I was just demotivated, not enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I spent a lot of my life in the office. And basically, I just think probably after the first couple of years, I could have just done this a lot sooner.
Yeah.
Um, so probably set up as soon as possible, sooner rather than later, really.
Brilliant.
Um, yeah,
That funny enough, that is a relatively common response. A lot of people
yeah,
say just done earlier and
just
faster.
yeah,
Yeah,
just do it. Yeah,
yeah, just do it.
yeah, that's
But I
it.
mean that there is as I say, there's a big part of us building our identity, and so in
Yeah,
some cases it is we have to build up that level of dissatisfaction
yeah, yeah,
to take because it's a big step to take. And as I say, that's when only
exactly. Yeah,
4% of the population actually do
yeah,
have their own businesses. And I've worked with some really high performing, successful people that
yeah,
operate as employees, whether they're
Yeah,
CEOs or MDs, and they just prefer,
yeah,
from an identity perspective, to ultimately
mm,
still have somebody holding them accountable, if that makes
yeah,
sense. And
yeah,
so it's so there aren't any rights or wrongs, but I think it is a specific personality trait, I think,
yeah,
that
yeah.
makes a great business owner. Elliot, it's been fascinating talking to you today. I really appreciate
No problem.
your feedback, your openness, and really wish you all the best for the future. And it'd be great to swing by another 6, 12 months and just see,
Yeah,
well, where we are, where we've moved to. Hopefully, we're in.
yeah,
Maybe we can talk from your new set of offices. That would be
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
that'd be wonderful. But for now,
Brill.
and before we finish, if anyone that's watching that would like to get in touch with you or Set Mortgages, what's the best way of doing that?
You can get us through the website www.setmortgages.co.uk or on Facebook, Instagram at Set Mortgages, whichever really. Yeah, or LinkedIn, Elliott Benson.
Wonderful. Well, as I say, maybe we can do the next one from your offices in the Northwest or wherever
Yeah,
that is. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
thank you.
Thank you.